Welcome to this week's episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in as little as 15 minutes to build your dream business. And now here's your host, the Visibility Wiz, Cindy J.
Hi, I'm Cindy J, the Visibility Wiz, and welcome to this episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in 15 minutes or less. Today, our guest is Morgana Rae, and she is a 10-time international #1 best-selling author with over 22 years as a pioneer in personal development. She is widely regarded to be the world's leading relationship with money coach. Morgana's fans call her the money goddess because of the many documented stories of clients manifesting unexpected income of hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars within hours of changing their relationship with money. Morgana guides idealistic entrepreneurs, coaches, authors, and artists to have a big impact in the world and to heal the rift between heart, spirit, and money. Welcome, Morgana. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, my pleasure.
And to begin with, could you share with us a personal or business challenge that you had to overcome in order to achieve your level of success?
My first response when you ask that is which one?
Right.
Very briefly, when I was a teenager, I was hit by a car. Not many people know this about me, but I was hit by a car. I was in a coma for a week.
Wow.
And I had a severe head trauma for years. I could not concentrate. I could not remember. I went from being like this straight A student, the world was my oyster, to I could read a page and not remember what I had read and falling asleep. And it was the experience of losing who I thought I was and everything I expected for my life. And it was a very, very painful, terrifying trudge back, during which I became homeless, I became suicidal, and I think what kept me alive was my drive to graduate from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And for all the stories you hear about how horrible high school is, I transferred high schools halfway through because I was getting so far behind in my studies in the high school that I was at, and I just needed a reset. So I moved to my mother's house just to catch up. And the kids at my school kept me alive. They were so friendly. This strange girl with like weird stuff going on just showed up, and they were so kind and supportive, and I'll never know why, and I still choke up thinking about it. My mom, on the other hand, is a narcissist and a drug addict, and that became a very dangerous environment. So I had to sleep on people's floors to graduate. That is the hardest thing I've ever lived in my life. And there were also some benefits from this horrible situation that I would not wish on anybody and I would not want to repeat. But because this left part of my brain was injured, which is your language center, honestly, they didn't know if I was going to live. Then they didn't know if I'd be able to speak or read when I woke up. While this part of my brain was healing, my intuition really flowered. And I started knowing things. I started knowing things before they were going to happen. I started knowing things before people said things.
Mm-hmm.
I would lose something and then have a dream about it and find it the next day. I just, very weird synchronicities, but just that's when my intuition kind of kicked in to compensate, which has been very useful to me in my life, where now as a coach, I will meet somebody and I will know things about them that I really, shouldn't know based on what they told me. And maybe there's a part of recognizing micro patterns, having been a coach since 1996 and coaching thousands of people. I think there is a level where you just start to really tune into the tiniest micro patterns. But there's also that part where very often with clients, I know what they're going to say before they know it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I heard something and then they say something different, and I'm totally not attached to being right, I don't care. I just want to get to truth. But if they say something that's different, I might go, really? And almost not every time, but almost every time, they'll say, well, actually, and then they'll say what I heard. So in terms of how that's helped me, that's given me certain advantages in just my ability to help people in ways that other people can't. And I love to say, just from a pure marketing standpoint, that your wealth is in your weirdness.
Your wealth is in your weirdness?
Your wealth is in your weirdness. It is a noisy, crowded world. And that, especially that thing that you might be embarrassed about, that thing that is vulnerable and different about you is golden. Whatever people can get from you that they can't get from somebody else, that is something to examine. Especially if you had to overcome something that involved shame, heartbreak, failure. You know, honestly, when I tell my money story, I go full out with like my own history of failure and pain and despair, with the sincere hope that I outdo anybody who's listening. You know, I want the crown of biggest loser when I share my story. No shame. Because
the big thing is the shame. I think everybody has things in their life that has brought them shame, and that's what holds so many people back, is that shame.
And that shame, and I don't like it, and I'm really super familiar with that experience in lots of areas of my life over a lifetime, but I also think that that is one of those experiences that unites us as a human race. You know, if we think that what makes us lovable is our successes. Look at me, how big I am. That makes you admirable. But I actually think that it's the failure and the humility and the empathy that you develop from those experiences of shame and hurt and failure that actually make us human and caring and real and lovable.
I love that. Thank you. It's so, so true. And I know one of the big things that you teach is that we need to break up with the money monster, and we need to imagine them as, you know, imagine money as our sweetheart versus the money monster. So can you talk a little bit about that?
We need to do both. The money monster is actually really valuable. Horrible, but really valuable. So when you are pursuing a goal, and I got famous for this money thing, which to me is just it's weird and surprising, because it's not what I care most about. But because of my huge success at failing in that area of life, like I could get great results for clients, great marketing, and despite every advantage of the world, managed to not get paid. Like I had superpowers to repel money, and I'm like, you know, give me a cape and a big R on my chest. And nobody's program worked on me. And I was a good student, and I had vision boards and mindsets and mantras, and I did all the exercises, and I also, you know, did the marketing and the website and the business cards and the taglines. Good student, good girl, right? And such a failure at getting paid. Living in one of the most expensive cities in the world, Los Angeles. Since nobody else's thing worked for me, when I accidentally had an experience that worked for me, and we're talking like overnight, the next day I had 4 clients paying me double what I'd ever charged before. I believe whether it's money or love or health or anything, and you know, you and I were talking about our husbands before, you know, this interview began, I did the same process on love. So if you are pursuing and doing everything you're supposed to be doing and not getting the results that you desperately want, desire, and even need, in my experience, coaching for decades, coaching many thousands of people, and myself. My experience is that on a deep, below your conscious level awareness, you are protecting yourself from what you want. And so you're not a failure. You're actually super successful at protecting yourself from a threat. Money is a threat, and I'll explain that in a minute. Love. If you've had heartbreak and betrayal after betrayal, oh my God, love is dangerous. So you're protecting yourself from something that you consciously want. So you're going in two directions at the same time. It's like at best driving with the brakes on. So for me, when I kind of like hit my depths of despair to the point that I just really didn't want to be alive anymore. And that's why I take this problem so seriously, because people kill themselves over financial anxiety, you know, or they don't get the health care and the food and the shelter they need because of money. It is a life and death matter. So back to, if you are pursuing and you aren't getting what you want and need, you're protecting yourself from it. I got curious what was going on inside of me that couldn't be with money. And I had my change very soon after that. I think a day later, I had a coaching session. This is the joke. Like, I didn't have money for rent or food or anything, but I still always made sure that I had a coach. Thank God. Like, full disclosure, at the very worst of it, I was struggling to make $100 a month in a city where studio apartments start at like $1,200, $1,400, $1,600 a month. So I was like borrowing and credit cards, and being a coach, helping people with their lives is like really difficult when you had that chain going on. So that's my before picture. And I was getting results. I had all these movie star clients, directors, producers. They were happy. I was just really bad at asking for money and getting paid. And I hope worse than anybody who ever watches this. So what happened when I just was like, I give up. I've done everything. I've taken every class, and I'm just out of ideas, and I don't want to live anymore. Because I can't support myself. I can't do what I'm here to do. I just ran out of hope and cried myself out. And when I was done crying, I had two thoughts: that maybe money needed to be my next area of spiritual growth. Doesn't have to be yours. I'm just from Southern California, and spirituality is in the water. So like, that was my way of, well, maybe if it's spiritual, maybe then I can have it in my life. And the other piece was, I got curious, what is in me? Because it doesn't make sense. People want to hire me. What is inside of me that can't be with money? And immediately after that, I think it was a day or two later, I had my call with my coach, and he asked me the question that changed my life. There were two questions. The first question kind of set the stage. He asked, what happened with money with you growing up? And I thought of things that I hadn't thought of in decades. I thought of family conflicts, family members still not talking to each other, a stolen inheritance, a stolen college trust fund. People that I really, really loved in my immediate family had betrayed me and others over money. And I think at a very young age, I just made a decision that money and love couldn't coexist, so I chose love. And I think I was 12 at the time. I didn't really know that I was making that decision or how it would play out later. But as soon as I thought of those things, I was like, whoa, that was some ugly stuff. Maybe I do have money issues. But it was the next question that changed my life. And he asked me, if your money was a person, who would your money be? I didn't even know where he got that idea. It was one of these like brilliant strokes of weird genius. Because immediately, because I was in so much pain, when he asked that question, I saw this money person like that. And now when I coach a client, we may take Some people are ready to pop, and some people sometimes we have to dig for hours to finally get to the place where they can see their monster.
Mm-hmm.
Now I call it a monster. At the time, it was just a scary, dirty, violent biker dude who terrified me. And I never knew that I felt that way about money, that it was scary or dirty
Mm-hmm.
or terrifying. Until it became a person, suddenly the relationship became real. And even more important, what I was doing suddenly became visible to me and made all the sense in the world. If money was that guy and he was that dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously, I was always going to create distance. So it didn't matter how many business cards, how many classes, how many sales conversations, how many websites, it didn't matter what I did consciously or how well I did it.
Mm-hmm.
If my life depended on creating distance, I could not have money in my life. And that biker made it visible for me.
Was this somebody you actually knew, or just a
Totally.
monster person in your head?
Just popped up. By the way, that's a great question, because our money monsters actually have nothing to do with money. I'm just like, I'm going to try and cram in 20 years of field research and coaching into the little bit of time that we have and try and squeeze in every secret that I can while we're together. So that's a great question. So actually, the less the monster is based on money, the better, because money is not the problem. It's a hugely important symptom, but it's not the real problem. It's what money represents, which is love, worth, our worth, what we value, and safety, down to our very right to exist. So anytime, anything like accidents that made you feel unsafe, betrayals, rejections, failures, it's all diseases, it's all going to be really, really useful. So we're actually talking about a life monster, what makes the world unsafe, but it shows up in your money because that's where it gets your attention. That's where all of our issues around love, worth, safety hit us in the face in a way that we can't ignore, which is really, really useful. So let's see, uncover the root cause of the money monster, anything that ever made you feel unsafe, unloved, or unworthy. I have 6 steps. I tell stories and then I show the steps. 2, meet the monster. I used to say create, and now it's like the more it organically is its own self, the better. The more real, the less cartoonish, the more powerful it is. And you know, you share that beautiful bio at the beginning, and it ends at like hundreds of thousands of dollars within hours. I have left that so far behind. Like now we're at over $1 million within hours of a coaching session with me. So the results just keep getting bigger and bigger. When it's safe to have money in your life, then we get rid of a huge obstacle to having money in your life. More opportunities become visible, less resistance, hidden resistance on the inside. So step number 2 is meet the money monster. Step number 3 is destroy it, which is why, even though most people have money monsters that are based on experiences with real people, starting with parents. Like, you can have a monster even if you have great parents, but if you have less than great parents, that's a great place to look. But we don't kill our parents because we're not homicidal maniacs. We're not going to kill any real people. So the monster is bigger than any individual. Like, the monster used your parents or your teacher or your boyfriend or your employer or whatever to...
Or somebody that abused you. I mean, whenever you said that, I was abused as a child by a family friend who used to pay me money. Just not really, you know, it was like I was his special friend, so he would give me money. And this happened for years. But whenever you said that, that's why I asked you if it was a real person, because it's like his face is all I can see as you're talking.
Okay, so here's what you can do. And thank you for your candor and courage in sharing that. And you just helped a lot of people who've been through that just by your so thank you. You can use his face if you can believe. Like, I use a certain very famous high
Mm-hmm.
profile politician who's in the news all the time as my monster. I've had a few. I don't just do this once. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I think it's time to destroy another monster again. Yeah, you can use him. It's better to use him than a parent. Here's the challenge with human beings is none of them are all bad.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's useful to use like a famous person who's done bad things because they aren't real to us.
Right.
They're more like a caricature. They represent more than they are real.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use him, or you can use a monster that is even bigger and badder than him that used him to hurt you, but also hurt you in all the other ways you've been hurt over the course of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use him the first time, and then when you and your money honey are ready to evolve to the next level, you may feel called to slay a new monster.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like spiritual hygiene. You get to do it more than once. I had a client years back named Athena. I love that, this goddessy name.
Yeah.
Back in 2008. And when she came to me, whoa, like her situation was so dire. I was afraid to let her pay me. And it was like my money honey said, just be quiet. She's an adult. Let her make her decision. And I let her hire me. She was single mom, 2 small kids, mountains of debt, kind of facing the abyss. And within about 5 months, she was making tens of thousands of dollars working part-time as a psychic, after about 5 months of us coaching together. And her changes started really, really fast. And she had one of the worst monsters I've ever coached. And one of the reasons her results were so big and so fast was that she kept doing it over and over and over again.
Oh, she kept slaying him?
Yeah, she did it a few times with me, and then she kept doing it on her own, which is what I always want for my clients, is I want my clients to learn how to be able to do it on their own for themselves. Like,
so how do we slay them?
I'd love them to stay forever, but I also am not in the business of making people dependent on me.
Right.
That's not coaching. So you get to do it, and every time you do it on the other end, the connection to the money honey, and we haven't talked about that yet, is deeper and realer. So we talked about the money monster.
And slaying it, is there any particular way to slay it, or is it just a decision, or just imagine yourself chopping his head off? I'm going to the Renaissance here. Let's chop off their head.
It's highly, highly individual. So you use the most important word. Is there's a moment of decision where we have piled everything bad in our lives and the world that we can think of. It's like the anti-law of attraction moment where you take off all your positive thinking, which is so much harder than it sounds. Because there's a natural tendency of us to want to pop out and go, but everybody feels this way, or everybody, or it's been worse for other people, or it wasn't so bad. We just want to pop out. And that's normal. That's why having a coach guide you through it, or just a witness to like hold the space, makes it safer to go deeper, because the presence of the other person kind of lets you know that you will come out the other side. When it's gone, and we're talking about getting rid of it, popular ways of destroying the monster. First, it's the decision. Like, the monster has to be so bad, and maybe you're crying, or maybe you're frightened, or maybe it feels overwhelming. By the way, all of those are great things. The bigger, the badder, the better. It's like a slingshot. The more you go into the dark direction, the direction you don't want to be in, the more tension you create that propels you where you want to be in a way that you will stick there. There's no magic and neutrality in wishy-washy. We want polarity. We want extremes. That is alchemy. Classic alchemy going back tens of thousands of years. It starts with Negredo. We're separating the lead from the gold. When you have some good and some bad, you're kind of stuck in the mud. So we focus on just what we want to get rid of your life, or get rid of in your life. And that's That's the first part. That's the uncovering root, the step one, uncovering the root cause. Personify the monster, personify all that bad stuff as a monster, then destroy it. So when it comes to this point where only one of you is going to survive, you are the monster, and you decide that it's going to be you. And then any weapon, anything, like very popular sword, lightsaber, machine gun, machete, knife, fiery pit, sharks. One client ran over her monster with a monster truck. Yeah, I love that. So just until not only is it dead, but it's gone. Like no bloody bits for zombie monsters to reconstitute, And when it's gone, which can feel great and light and expansive or scary, all of which, by the way, is great, it's different. That's all it takes, is that it's different. And it's either gone or it's not. And if it's not, just keep going, keep doing it. I've had sessions where we went maybe 5, 6 more times, because my job is to make sure it's really gone, because the rest of the process doesn't work unless the monster is gone. The monster is the key to the kingdom. And when it's gone, all that's left is love. Like when every hurtful, unfair, unjust, unsafe life experience is rejected and obliterated, all that's left is love. And that is the new relationship. And the new relationship with life. And because money is an area of life that so deeply needs our love and healing in this world for our survival, I call it money. But it's bigger than just money. But calling it money was useful for me because I needed to heal that relationship. And so when I got rid of the biker back in the beginning of 2003, I was like, yay, I got rid of the monster. I got rid of like the only relationship with money I have. Could I have in my life that I would want so much that it would be okay even if it's money? Because my experience with money had been so painful and invalidating and conflict ridden that I just wasn't, it was like if I could be without it, I'd be without it, which is like such a horrible, cruel thing to say to money. So when I asked myself, well, who could I want so much? In that moment, something magical and accidental happened, and like, the monster showed up, the new guy showed up. Only he was sweet, and he was safe, and he was romantic, and he was lovable, and most important of all, he loved me. And he had always loved me, and he had always wanted to be with me, while I was pushing him away as if he was an ugly monster. Like I was choosing the monster over him. And when I got that, I was like, whoa, first of all, this is really weird, because I've never thought of money as loving me. But it was a person. And I liked him based on him, his heart. And I didn't want to hurt him anymore. So we had a conversation. And I had a sense that I really had the power, which was, again, very, very different from where I was before this. But it was really up to me whether to let him in. So I asked him, what do you need from me so you can stay with me? Which is a very, very different question than, what do you need from me so that you would want to stay with me? Or what do you need from me so you will love me? Your money, honey, by definition, loves you more than anybody else in the world because it's your relationship. Your money, honey, loves you no matter what. And your money, honey, wants to be with you. And you have the power to push him away without even knowing, or her, depending on your preference. We have the power because we have the bodies. And I'm not teaching you to just imagine money is cute and is some fairy who will just go out and live your life while you sit on the couch. This relationship is more like a love relationship that empowers you so that you can go out and be your greatness and do your best work in the world. So I asked my money honey this, what do you need from me? And he said, I need you to love me. Which was so sweet. And to stop treating me like a monster because it was breaking his heart. And I thought of all the times people had tried to hire me and they'd ask me the most terrifying words in the human language. How do you work? Or what do you charge? It took me a long time to figure out that how do you work meant what do you charge? Like years before I put those little pieces together. And I used to freak out as if it was some icky, scary, ugly, embarrassing thing. And how did that make him feel? So I made a commitment to him that next time he brought me a gift, the way he liked to woo me was to bring me clients. Next time somebody asked me, what do you charge? I would think about how lovable he was. And I would just say my fee with that level of love and then shut up. And the next day he brought me 4 gifts, 4 people who wanted to hire me. And full disclosure, I had hardwired my neurology and my mouth for years to talk people out of the sale without even knowing I was doing it, to like cram sample sessions or hem and haw or get all weird. Like I didn't know I was doing it at the time. It was completely unconscious because I was reacting to the monster. But now that I had, this new relationship and I had resolved to be a loving person, people called me, they asked me what I charged, and I stated my fee, which was double what I'd ever charged before. And I kept quiet, which was so excruciating the first time. And they said, okay, and they sent me a check. And I got to go through that 4 times. And by the 3rd time, I was starting to get better at it. And then people kept coming, and I kept raising my rates and getting waiting lists and starting groups. And, it's still a living, dynamic relationship. And by the way, I have made millions of dollars.
Okay, and we went through all 6, right?
Yeah, uncover the root cause, personify the problem as the monster, obliterate the monster, meet your money honey, have a conversation with your money honey, and then 6 is take action. So I thank you for bringing that up because I didn't articulate. If you want to have concrete measurable results in the world, yay, take concrete measurable action. What it does is it lets you know physically, neurologically, just all levels of your reality that something has changed, that it's not just some great idea, la-di-da. So I made a commitment to my money honey that next time he brought me a gift, which was a potential client, I would not treat him like a monster. I would state my fee, and with a different energy, without the shame, because I didn't want to make him feel bad. So in all honesty, I took my superpowers of codependency and I use them now for good by making my money honey happy.
I love that. Thank you very much. Can you share a strategy with our listeners that they can implement in 15 minutes or less to grow their business?
Totally. I've been waiting for that like the whole time. Okay, so I have this online accountability coaching program that I've been doing for a year now that I'm kind of crazy about. I even though it's mine and I have all these clients, I put myself in it because the practices of it make me so much more productive and I get, so much more success. So I've got this results accelerator program, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a piece of it. Every day we check in and we answer a bunch of questions, 10 questions, but I'm going to give you 6 that I think will make sense to anybody. And this is how I start my day. And the difference is that in my program, I have a group of up to 11 other people who can see that I checked in and see my answers, because I think having a witness and having accountability is super important. So if you can find somebody out there who will check up on you every day and you can check up on them, study after study has shown that having a witness improves results. And also anytime you measure, anytime you write things down, but being witnessed, we perform better. But these are 6 questions that I never go a day without answering because it improves my results. So the first one is, what is my number 1 priority for the day? Then I make my preemptive gratitude list, my gratitude for stuff that hasn't happened yet. And there's something really cool about that. First of all, it kind of changes your relationship with life in that moment. Mm-hmm. So the things that you're worrying about, you start rehearsing the positive outcome. You know, we tend to rehearse a negative outcome and then we're not prepared for the positive. So you're rehearsing a positive outcome. And I've also had problems resolve within minutes after I wrote my gratitude for the result I want. So the preemptive gratitude list. Then my planned actions for the day. The fewer, the better. The person who has the shortest to-do list wins because you get more accomplished. There was a whole Wall Street Journal study on this, and I've been like, oh yeah, I've been saying that for years. But it's true. You cut down your to-do list, but put down your planned actions for today. Those are the first 3. Next question, what do I feel good about? What challenges do I have? And what does my money honey say? Because I get the best answers to my challenges from my money honey, and which kind of leads to the gift. Yes. Because, you know, I'm on my little campaign to help as many people as I can. So I have a free money magnetic 4-part video series that takes you through, you know, some of what we've covered here will be familiar. And then there's going to be some stuff that we didn't cover here that will be of interest to you to help you get started on your relationship with money, transforming it from a monster to a honey.
Very, very good. And to our listeners, you want to head on over to bizsuccessin15.com/Morgana. That's Morgana, and grab your 4-part money magnetic video gift. And while you're there, be sure to re-listen to Morgana's words of wisdom. You know, if anything that you might have missed or just re-listening to it again, I'm sure you'll gain a wealth of information. And you can also download the episode so you can listen to it anywhere, anytime at your convenience. And Morgana, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
All money issues are love issues. Deep down. And when you work on the money, it's going to affect everything else in your life. The love, the health, happiness, career, your life will change. And for a lot of us, all that other stuff is easier. Like I've had clients say that this money piece was the final frontier for them. You know, especially for deep spiritual transformation, deep personal transformation. And in the end, you are going to have a relationship with money for the rest of your life. So you want to make it a good one.
Thank you so much for being my guest today, Morgana. It's totally been a pleasure. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's show, feel free to share it with your friends. Everybody should go out there and meet their money honey. Yes. And visit bizsuccessin15.com/Morgana. You'll be able to download this show. There'll also be links to Morgana's books that she's written, and you can catch up on past episodes. And while you're there, again, be sure to grab your 4-part money magnetic video gift from Morgana. So big hugs, and be sure to tune in next week for another great episode of Biz Success in 15. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Biz Success in 15. For all links mentioned in today's show and to watch or listen to previous episodes, visit bizsuccessin15.com. Thanks so much for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for another amazing guest.